Hello and welcome to the first episode of a brand new podcast brought to you by me, known as either Sam Hanna or Sam the Hangover Hanna. This podcast is going to be called Real Nonsense, and it's going to do exactly what it says on the tin. Now, people may know Harry and I went fungal during 2020 with a podcast called Hannah and Eastwood Get Real. And every week we would sort of pick apart the pandemic, as it were, with the news stories, with entertainment stories, all of that gibberish. And we would take a very serious look into the news and sort of give our opinion. This podcast is going to be nothing like that. Of course, I will still look at the news stories. However, the news stories that I'm going to look at are completely preposterous. And I will also be sharing life experiences. I will be sharing my recent experiences. And I will be sharing some completely and utterly daft ideas, such as if I had to survive a zombie apocalypse, what would I do? Now, the real question is, if you were to survive, if you were in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, if you could take anything with you, one item only, what would you take? That will be the theme for this week. Now, this episode is simply called Beginnings, just because, as Julie Andrews once said, let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. Of course, as this podcast goes on, we will adapt, we will grow, we will have special guests. I do have some very special guests lined up already, and I am so excited to sort of share that with you. So, to begin, it's been a very strange few years since the pandemic happened. I've changed a lot since that unemployed, mentally unstable young man that I was, being that I am now employed and mentally unstable. I have now an amazing group of friends. I also went fungal during the pandemic with my music shows live from this bedroom. How wonderful. And it's been really, it's been great. I've loved every moment. I have expanded my music taste. Harry always hated me because I stuck to musical comedy, and I thoroughly studied acts like Victoria Wood, Tom Lehrer, fascinating Aida, who are absolute comedy gold. And he would constantly turn around to me and say, "Are you not fed up of listening to that?" So I divulged myself into the music of a different band who did something completely different. That band being the Divine Comedy. And I had the absolute pleasure of seeing them at the London Palladium at the beginning of the month, and it was a sold out show. The show was absolutely amazing. It was their greatest hit show. I believe that tour is now coming to an end, so you may have missed that. However, if there are any divine comedians amongst us watching this first episode, wherever you may be, I am aware that they are also doing a couple of shows in the Barbican in London, or at the Barbican in London. Well, it will be in the Barbican. And they're also doing a couple of shows in Paris. So, for those of for those of you that are abroad, do try and buy tickets because they're selling quickly. They are a very popular band. Moving swiftly onwards to some of the nuttiest news stories of the week. Now, Harry and I always focused on political correctness gone mad, and this week saw one of the strangest news stories that I've ever read. I mean, but before I started recording, I flicked through some of the funniest news stories of the week. On Wednesday, it was announced that parasitic worms have now been sucked into a gender bias row amid claims of names being sexist. Who could have thought a parasitic worm could be sexist? Well, what a day and age we live in. The most ironic one is that as Metallica played their famous song Enter Sandman, a woman gave birth. So who knows? That child may now be given the nickname the Sandman. A boy of 4 this week has crashed his mum's car after taking it for a joyride. That child is living its best life. Another child who was living its best life, and I feel is every one of us, is a toddler who ordered 31 cheeseburgers. Well done. I mean, how ridiculous can the world get these days? So that is some of the nuttiest news stories of this week. Now I want to go on to a little segment where I choose some songs of the week. Now this week, some of I'm going to choose 3 songs. 3 of the 3 songs are going to be completely different genres. Some that I've loved for absolutely years. The first one is I'm trying to remember the name of it now. So the first one is called Gin Soaked Boy. It's an absolute tune from the Divine Comedy. They entered it as a late entry in their greatest hits tour, and just hearing a sold out London Palladium singing ba 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 da ba back at the Divine Comedy, absolute amazing. And I think it is the most beautiful lyrics from a lyrical genius. I mean, I could write poetry myself. Who'd have thunk it? The second of which is a song by a band called the Mavericks. Now, I grew up listening to this song. It was actually released on the year of my birth in 1998, and for some reason, it's a song that I've always known the tune, but I've never known the name until fairly recently, and I feel that is the same for most people. Most people know a song but don't know the name. This song is my song of the week because there's a bit of personal background to it. I shall go into it a little bit. So there was this girl that I liked a little while ago. I feel that I changed myself quite a lot. I stood away from doing comedy stuff. I put this on hold, and I sort of lost myself as a person. And now I'm back. The old Sam Hanna is back. Sam the Hangover Hanna is back. And here we are, probably with 0 views, but hey, who cares? And the lyrics are, again, it's a very upbeat song. Um, I love the lyric, because now she's gone and I am free, and she can't do a thing to me. Again, lyrical genius. Again, well, all of these songs will be on Spotify. First one being Gin Soaked Boy, second one being Dance the Night Away. I'm just gonna get those added to the bottom. So there we go, Gin Soaked Boy and Dance the Night Away. Now the third one. The third one is one of my personal favourite comedy songs, and given the situation in Ukraine and the oncoming World War III, it has to be Tom Lehrer's So Long Mom. A very short and sweet song, a farewell note from a son who is off to drop the bomb, so don't wait up for him. It's a very short, sweet, but very comical song. Again, that I believe is on Spotify. I will just double check. I don't want to provide any false information. Yes, so it is on Spotify, so go and check that out. Tom Lehrer is a lyrical genius. He retired a long time ago. He is actually a very well-renowned mathematician in America. He was a lecturer for years, and he turned his hat to comedy, and people loved him. But I feel he would be cancelled in this day and age. Talking of being cancelled, in 2020, when Harry and I first launched our original podcast, it came at a time where Little Britain had just been removed from BBC iPlayer, BritBox, or all of the standard streaming services, Netflix, stuff like that. And a few weeks ago, I read a news story that it has come back, but segments have been cut out of it. I feel that if you're going to tamper with comedy, in that way, it takes the comical element out of it. When Little Britain was first aired, I'm sure people loved the characters of Ting Tong and Bubbles and Marjorie Dawes and characters such as that, and I feel that if people can't take a joke, if people can't take a joke, then simply don't watch it. That's my opinion. Again, if the amount of people that complain about stand-ups, Jimmy Carr was in the news recently about a Netflix show that he did. Frankie Boyle is constantly under scrutiny. If people are going to buy tickets to watch a show, you would at least check it out beforehand. Otherwise, you wouldn't know what you're going to see, and you wouldn't know if you had that particular sense of humour. I don't care if someone has bought a ticket for you. You would still want to know what you were agreeing to before going to see it. Again, this podcast, I will share my opinions. My opinions don't reflect the opinion of the world, because, of course, everyone has the right to their own opinion. So, if you do disagree with me, put it down in the comments. I'm putting this up on Facebook, and I'm putting it up on YouTube. So, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you like and put your comments down below. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and put your comments down below on some other things that we're talking about during this podcast. Because this podcast will go on indefinitely until I get fed up of it, really. Now, the big event that happened this week was, of course, Eurovision 2022. And I have to say, Sam Ryder, wow. Sam Ryder has amazing vocals, and I'm sure the whole of the UK will agree he did us all proud. He came second. He got more points than the last 11 entries combined. So he has something to be proud of as well. Harry and I did meet last night, just because I've had a couple of personal issues going on, and we just wanted to catch up with each other, really. And he made a statement that we have both seen on Facebook, that if the whole conflict in Ukraine didn't happen, then maybe we could have pipped it and won, but we can't think of ifs and buts, and we can't think of what might have been. But we know that next year, but we have something to work on, and it'll be interesting to see where we go from here. My personal favourite was Moldova. I mean, in an evening where everything was ballads and depressing music, Moldova didn't let us down, brought the classic Eurovision cheese. And what I'll do is I'll put Moldova's Eurovision entry in the description below, as will I the videos for Gins Up Boy, Dance the Night Away, and So Long Mum. Now, upcoming event, and I am very excited for this. My first properly live show in what will be about 2.5 years is going to be performed on the 25th of June. And what I've simply done is I've just adapted two of my previous at-home shows to be performed to a live audience, and I'm absolutely buzzing for that. I mean, it's strange, really. Like, performing at home, especially performing comedy, you always rely on laughter. And when you're performing on Facebook, or when you're performing on YouTube, or on a streaming service, you obviously get laughter emojis, and you get emojis such as that, but it's not the same as a real laugh. Like, I miss singing an absolutely daft a daft lyric, and having to play in a couple of extra bars of that chord just while people are laughing. I mean, the last physically live show I did a song called Song of Genetic Mutation. It's a beautiful little number, I have to say, written by Dilly King of Fascinating Aida. And the first line of the chorus is, "Dear little two-headed baby." Of course, but why would you not sing about a two-headed baby? Now, I performed it at a very intimate venue, the same venue that I'm going to be performing the new show at, and I had a young woman sat direct in my eye line as I sang the Dear Little Two-Headed Baby, and she howled with laughter, and of course, myself being the person that I am, I couldn't hold the laughter back myself. So I did have to play a couple of extra bars just while I got over the laughter. In terms of Hannah and Eastwood, what happens next for us, because of course I'm sure you've all heard the announcement. I'm stepping away from comedy at the end of this year, and this year is flying past. Uh, I said in January I would step away from comedy, hoping that I would be able to have more time with it. But with work commitments and other things, it just hasn't happened. So we can confirm that we do have two. Well, we do have two shows lined up. One is a live at home show, and that's called it. It isn't too late to be famous. That was written by myself, Harry Eastwood, and Holly Phillips had some contribution. And that will be a solo show. That will be my greatest hits. And then fast forward to the autumn, Harry and I have written a show called Hanna and Eastwood Unmasked. It's funny, it's heartbreaking at times. It's of course got Tess Tickles in, because Miss Tickles had to make an appearance, had to make a live appearance at some point, as did her colleague and secret lover Barry Barlow. So Barry Barlow will also make an appearance at some point. It is one of our favorite. I think it's the best material that we've written, and we've been a bit slack on the rehearsals. So we are looking forward to getting into that rehearsal process, because it's been the first show that we've done together in God knows how long, about 4 years. So we're looking forward to that, and just being back together again. Being up on stage on your own can be fun, because being two of you can get a bit overwhelming at times, especially us both being piano players. So it's been nice, but we've needed each other back. And it was a mutual agreement. We wrote this show in 2020, aiming for performance in 2021, and COVID was still around. It didn't seem feasible, with both of us working and COVID, to perform it in autumn last year. So we are aiming for autumn this year to go out with a bang, as it were. Of course, that doesn't mean the end of the Hanna and Eastwood partnership, but we will still continue working together. Now on to what I would like to think of as the random segment of the podcast. Now, I imagine that this podcast episode has been quite serious. I've sort of gone with the flow. I normally script things. This has been completely off the ball. But then again, real nonsense, not supposed to make any sense. So this random part, I would always choose a topic to talk about. I will always set myself a scenario, and try and work around it. So this week I would like to look at if a zombie apocalypse happened and I had to sort of hide myself in a shelter, because anyone who knows me knows I'm not a fighter. I'm quite a coward. I like to hide away in times of peril. So if I was in a zombie apocalypse, if I could take one item with me, I would take my piano. Of course, something needs to keep me company. An album. If I could take one album with me. Now, this is quite a tricky one, because there are a lot of albums, and it will probably be the only album that I would be able to listen to for a while, and all of my other albums would be forgotten. So I think, or I mean, if you were in a zombie apocalypse and you could only take one album with you just to remember what music sounds like, what album would you take and why? I think I would take The Wall. I think I would take The Wall by Pink Floyd. It's a beautiful album, tells a story from back to front, front to back. And I think it's genius. It was at the height of Pink Floyd, one of their most popular albums, with some of their most popular songs. I do have a very unpopular opinion that some of the songs that are popular aren't the best songs on the album. Don't shoot me, please. One ser- if I had a TV in this shelter and I could take one film, No Time to Die. Seems a bit ironic, really. One TV series. The League of Gentlemen. Again, very non-PC these days. What gave David Walliams and Matt Lucas the idea for Little Britain. So, very dark humour, very funny. So I would take that. Food wise, I think lots of chocolate, dairy milk. I would survive off of dairy milk. I know I would get fat and it would just provide fodder for zombies to eat me. But I would be quite happy to die knowing that I've stuffed myself full of dairy milk, sublime chocolate. Now, I want to bring a big news stories this week to your attention, just as we close, as we get to the half an hour mark, and that is that Doctor Who has received a lot of backlash in the last week or so because Russell T Davies has cast a transgender as the companion of the new series. Now, I mean, again, this is my opinion. I think people are probably reading into the character too much. People think that it's going to be Rose Tyler. I mean, please, if they wanted Rose Tyler, they would just bring Billy Piper back. And there's been a lot of hate towards Doctor Who, towards the actor who has been cast. I mean, we're in 2022, for God's sake. People need to get a grip. But we can't speak until we've seen an episode with that person in. And the same goes for the new Doctor. Ncuti Gatwa, I think is their name. Whether they're bisexual, whether they're gay, whether they're straight, whether they're transgender, grow up. And people who just spout hate online, I think are probably just keyboard warriors. They won't doing anything. So, I mean, well, we shall wait and see. A few closing announcements. The next episode will be roughly in 2 weeks' time, so it'll be interesting to see what sort of happens in the next few weeks or so, especially around work, because I do work a very busy job. I work for Virgin Media. I have to try and save customers, and not every customer is nice. I was going to say something else there, but I do want to keep my job, so thank you very much. And but my main closing statement. Of course, I've been through quite a horrific few weeks. Those who need to know already know. And I just want to share, again, but if you're not feeling yourself, if you're feeling down, if you feel like you're in a dead-end job, if you don't like what you do and you start to blame yourself, that if you find yourself in a predicament where you realise sexuality, no matter what age you're in, or you are, this is 2022. Nobody needs to judge you, because nobody deserves to judge you. Nobody is better than you. And I think, well, I believe, speaking to someone makes it a lot better. I didn't speak until it's too late. And I found myself in a very horrible predicament. But now that is out, what is out is out. I'm happy knowing it's out, but I'm not content in the way that it came out. So if you are having if you're having a bad day, if you're feeling down, if you're starting to question where you are in life or what you are in life, text a friend, text your parents, say, put the kettle on, just want to have a chat, because who knows, one day could be too late. Anyway, that's the end of a very serious closing statement. If you have enjoyed this episode, make sure you like, share, subscribe, like the Facebook page, however you're watching. If you haven't, bugger off. No one's forced you to watch this. And if you do have any ideas of things that you want me to talk about, I mean, I can try to the best of my ability. Stick it in the comments below. The next episode will be scripted, so it'll be a bit more fluid. I'll know what I'm talking about, rather than just gibbering on for nearly 35 minutes now. But my name's been Sam Hanna. This has been the first episode of Real Nonsense. It's been interesting, but I am interested to see where this goes next. I'm off to enjoy a lovely week off, even though I've just had a week off, and I returned to work today for 2.5 hours, and now I'm on a week off again. So I shall enjoy that week off, writing shows, sleeping, and watching a lot of Netflix whilst eating dairy milk, because that is the dream. That is the absolute dream. And I will see you all in roughly 2 weeks' time for a new segment of the Real Nonsense story. And of course, a spin-off is coming. What could that mean? Well, I say, what could that mean? It could mean a spin-off is coming. So I will see you all in 2 weeks. Love and peace to everyone wherever you're watching. Until the next time. So long.